Testing. 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 All right. Okay, this is better. Hi. Hi, you all. Thank you all for joining. This is the Rolling Recruits orientation for recruiters, our 1099 contracted recruiters. I am Allie Turner, and I will be hosting and conducting this orientation today. And this is for recruiters who are thinking about coming aboard with Rolling Recruits or who have agreed to come aboard or who are just wanting to get some recruiting information on how to be a successful recruiter in the truck driving world. So let's get into it. As you can tell in the title, being able to excel, being able to excel as a recruiter in the trucking industry. And I'm so happy you got me as your trainer because I'll be able to, as an experienced recruiter, tell you what to do. All right, so first things you want to do, we're going to talk about two things. And this video is not going to take up most of your time. It's just going to talk about things you should know, things you're going to be doing as a recruiter. If you think too hard about it, it's going to be hard for you. But if you think business about it and you understand the mechanisms of it, then it's going to be easy for you. It's very simple, straightforward, just like buying a car. Well, buying a car is not that simple, but it's simple. Trust me. All right, so first things first, we're going to talk about understanding and knowing your industry that you are recruiting for, their regulations and compliance. And then the second thing we're going to talk about is effective recruitment techniques. Trust me, you're going to want to pay attention to both parts of this, okay? So let's get into it. All right, so you're coming aboard to be a CDLA truck driver recruiter. That's your job when you come along with us. You need to know what you're asking for and what you are needing to look for when you decide to take a foot in this industry. These things are very important because they will count as a part of your driver being qualified to work for the companies that you are recruiting for. Now, you're going to hear me say a lot in this training, qualified. You're going to get tired of me hearing about qualified because that's what it is when that's what the hiring process really is. Making sure we're finding qualified drivers to get behind the seats of these wheels, these big trucks, and be working for the carriers that we partner with. Now, Rolling Recruits partner with several major truck companies all over the US. So we want to make sure that we're sending over qualified leads and maintaining our great relationships that we do have with these companies. Okay. Now, when I keep saying qualified, you're going to make sure you put that in your notes because that's what you were putting together is a driver qualified profile. And we send those over to the HR department and their onboarding team reviews what we send over. And if they feel like our driver is a great fit for their role, they are hire them and put them in their onboarding class. Now, because of great relationships we do build with these companies, they do pick our drivers first. Now, driver qualified in the recruiting world of and HR world of truck driving companies are considered DQ files. That's what they call them. They call them DQ files. They were like, oh, did you receive that driver DQ yet? That's a driver qualified file, basically. So things that we're gonna discuss, things that a driver needs to be qualified. And you can see two of the most important ones right here. CDLA, not CDLB, not just a driver's license. Nope. They need to have a CDLA license. And it needs to be valid. Cannot be suspended. Cannot have accidents all on it recently. Cannot have speeding tickets recently in their tractor trailer or their personal vehicles. We want to make sure that drivers that we are recruiting have successfully completed a CDLA training program, graduated, got their license, is active, and um, the driver is in great standing with the Department of Transportation. And if so, we can work with them. If not, we need to let the driver know that they must have a CDLA current before we can move forward with them with any jobs that we're recruiting for. Now, you will get students calling you. That's great. Students need to be completed. They need to be done and graduated and taken their test and passed it. If they haven't done so, they're saying, oh, I'm getting ready to take the test. Cool, great. When are you going to take it? Get that information, put them on a potential trainee list. Do not put them on a list of drivers you're going to send over. We do have companies that hire for trainees and drivers with no experience, but a trainee would be considered someone who has gotten their license, they finished a class course, they've gotten their license, and they are ready to be hired on to a company with no experience. And they can be hired on. They will be more than likely placed in the driver development program, or, and you'll hear that called DDP, or they'll be hired as a trainee, the company. And they'll be making trainee pay to get some experience under their belt. Most trainees will 9 times out of 10 go over the road. You have to go over the road, get some experience to be a successful truck driver in the truck driving industry. So we want to make sure that we are finding drivers that are okay with that. There are a lot of new drivers that do not want to go over the road. Unfortunately, that's part of truck driving. So you have to learn how to navigate these roads before you can swim. Okay. Now, next part, you're going to make sure a driver has a medical examination card. They have to have their med card to drive a tractor trailer. Any CDL driver, not just CDLA. But for us, they need to have a valid, up-to-date, in good standing med card. Can that be expired? Can that be about to expire? It needs to be valid, up to date. There's a lot of drivers that are trying to get through the door knowing that their card is about to expire to try to get a free card, because once they are onboarded with the company and in orientation, it will be then the company's responsibility. We don't want the company to be spending a lot of money that they don't have to spend if we do the pre-checks before in our preliminary interviews, because that's what we're doing, a preliminary interview process, because they will be interviewed thoroughly by onboarding specialists. We have to ask, what's your expiration date? Normally, a DOT card expires in 2 years. Some drivers who are obese may expire little than 2 years, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. But if that card doesn't have any time on it left, we don't want to be putting them in our portal for hire. We want to let them know that they need to get that card updated, and then we can work with them after they get their card updated. Because we don't want to place the driver in there in the pool of candidates get pulled, and then the company pays for them to have a DL med card, and then they quit after they get that new med card. See, we do have drivers that do that. You have serial orientation goers, you have serial job poppers, and then you have that right there. So we want to be able to nip that in the bud. They need to be able to get their med card before they. And some drivers don't want to pay for that med card, but that's a part of being a truck driver. So we don't want to. We want to make sure when we're asking our interview questions, emphasizing when your med card expire. Do you have a med card? Can I get a screenshot of your med card? All right. When do you have your valid CDA? Do you have any driving infractions? Those type of questions need to be asked when you are asked, talking to truck drivers. Those are big two questions of making sure your driver is qualified to even move forward in your process. Now, next thing you need to be aware of is you're recruiting for an industry that has regulations and safety regulations. So you want to make sure that you understand everything there is to understand what you're recruiting for. You're going to be potentially placing a driver on the road. And we want to make sure we're placing drivers that have safety first in their mind always. To be compliant with the Federal Motor Carriers Safety Association. We want to make sure that truck drivers understand that when they onboard these companies, that they have to comply. Companies, especially if a driver is going to be a company or a solo driver, have cameras in their trucks for safety purposes. These cameras will turn on for safety and insurance purposes. These cameras will turn on if a driver is doing anything unsafe, such as eating, texting and driving, seat belt, whatever it is, not looking at the road, it will get them. And they could be fired from the company for having a lot of safety infractions. So we want to make sure. I don't know what just happened. Sorry. Well, hopefully I can get back to it, but I was just discussing. That's what happened. Somebody was reaching out to me. Okay, I want to get back to discussing the Federal Motor Safety, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association. They require companies to have these cameras in their truck for safety violations and making sure, like, if a driver do get in an accident, we want to make sure we can tell who was at fault and capture that information. So drivers have to be okay with driving with these cameras in their truck. We want to make sure that drivers can pass drug screens and background checks. There are a lot of drivers that may get a CDL and thinking they're going to get out there and drive, but have a messed up background. Got to have a clean background. Got to be clean for a certain amount of years to be able to drive for companies. And if a driver isn't okay with cameras, they don't have a clean background, they might need to be an owner operator and just run their own business. But for the companies that we are hiring for, they have to be able to meet these requirements to be in compliance with the Federal Motor Safety Association. Also, drug screen. That's a big part of why drivers are unemployed right now. They have to be able to pass these drug screens. And if they were to get in an accident, they need to be able to pass drug screen. We cannot have drivers on the road doing drugs and operating these tractor trailers. So we as recruiters, we have to get in front of that and asking the correct questions during our preliminary interview. Can you pass and make it sure we put an emphasis on it? Can you pass a drug test, urine, or hair follicle? And it definitely may be a hair follicle test. If they say, oh yeah, I could pass it, make sure you tell them and make sure you drill it in their head. Okay, these tests go back up to a year and maybe more. We don't know, but you need to be able to pass this test to drive in the tractor trailer. And if you get in this process and you end up failing that drug test for anything whatsoever, it will be placed on your driving background history, your driving background history, and it will be hard for you to get a job. They need to know these things so they can be honest with you. Because then if they do end up failing a test, they're going to be having to be placed in a substance abuse program. They may get kicked out of orientation and then you won't get paid because you sent over that driver and there are ways for them to pass these tests, but like with shampoo and stuff, but we can't tell them that legally. Like that we have to just make sure that they understand that these are hair follicle tests. If you fail this test, you will have to do a substance abuse program in order to get a job within the next, and it's going to be on your background for at least 5 years. So, and a lot of companies don't like to hire substance abuse program drivers. The reason being, they failed the drug test, and it could take longer for them to get through the process. So, they call those SAP. That's the word. That's the key word for substance abuse program. And then you have drivers that may not even tell you that they had that on their background. They cannot get hired with the company if they fail the drug test. We don't even want to even waste our time in trying to send those over. So we'll just make sure we emphasize to the drivers that we don't want to mess your background up. If you can't pass these tests, you need to do the necessary to get whatever you got in your system out of your system and then try us back at a later time. That's it. Don't stress it. You're going to find tons of drivers to get in the positions that you have available. So now let's keep going. Let's talk about recruiting techniques. Post it on Indeed. Post it on, not just Indeed, I'm sorry. Indeed is just a big one, but post it on job boards. Whatever job board that you post on, you want to make sure you have effective recruiting techniques on job boards and your ads are standing out to drivers and they're able to engage. So we'll show you how to post these ads, but you're going to spend most of your time posting ads. You don't have to pay for them. They are free. But you can pay for an ad for a week if you really just want to get that ad out the way. I wouldn't spend no more than $20 or $30 on an ad. Don't post the ad for an entire month because jobs don't even last open that long. Then post the ad for about a week. Hopefully you get some leads to fill that row. It should be $20 or $30 out of your pocket. That's your investment into your business. But you can post the ad for free as well and get the same, that position filled just as if you were to pay for it. Now, next thing I want to talk about is social media. Hello. Social media is your best friend. Drivers live on social media. They are in forums, Facebook groups. They're in their truck 90% of the time. So social media is their outlet. So you can post ads in Facebook groups, get your page going, figure out how to get traffic your way. During that, YouTube, Instagram. You can't do TikTok because it's banned, but just get your name out there on social media. And drivers will start coming your way. Post what you got. don't share too much because there are scammers in these groups. So you don't have to share too much about what you got available. Just share enough, okay, to get someone calling you. You're operating a business. So operating a business do mean you have to get out and network. You can't be in your shell. You can't be scared to talk to people. You're going to be spending most of your day talking to drivers, or most of your time recruiting, talking to drivers, talking to people, carriers, maybe even. But you cannot spend your time. You're going to be talking to other recruiters. You cannot be a person that has a bad attitude, bad mood, ugh, lazy. You can't do that. You ain't gonna get no money that way. You have to be happy, bubbly, talkative, you know, uh, uh, knowledgeable, and able to get out there, have business cards, flyers, go calling schools, go to the schools. You don't have to go to schools all around the world. Go to the ones in your area, you know, get your name out there. That way they'll send their students to you once they graduate. If it's not a school that one of the companies work with, So it's plenty of ways to get drivers, talk to drivers in gas stations, at the truck stops, um, in stores. It's simple, easy money. I promise you, you can do this. It's not gonna be hard for you. I promise you. Screening and interviewing. Screening and interviewing, all it is. Just asking those questions to make sure that your driver is going to be qualified, asking relevant questions, talking towards the job, making sure that you're, asking questions related to, you know, to make sure the driver is psychologically able to do their job. Now, don't ask them, are they crazy or anything like that? No, but you're going to be listening and hearing. You're going to be taking notes. But we want to talk about like those four things, all the questions I'm sorry, the questions, I'm sorry, the information I gave you at the beginning of this PowerPoint. Um, CDL, that's the question. Make sure you have a valid CDL-A license. Med card, ask them that, that's the question. When it's expiring. Asking about drug testing background. Those are four questions out the way. Next, you want to ask about why they left their previous job, why they're in the market. That's the question. Are they able to drive a tractor trailer? We're hiring for tractor trailer jobs. They need to be able to drive a tractor trailer. There are a lot of students or drivers who may not have experience driving the tractor trailer because they didn't want to go over the road. So they was driving box trucks or something locally. Local drivers and over the road drivers are different. So you want to make sure you ask those questions. Are they comfortable with backing in the dock doors? That's big. Being able to back into a dock door for a truck driver is big. But I've seen drivers that had the license for 20 years get in a training class and wreck truck, hit trailers. They mean that they was just not doing that part of their job. They were probably just dropping trailers in yards or, getting by. They weren't doing backing into dock doors. So, and that's okay. They may not be fit for the job that you have available. You may have something else for them, later date. But if they're looking for flatbed, we'll make sure that they have training on flatbed. So asking the right question, being effective. You have to ask if they are able to drive at night, and okay with weekends, maybe holidays. If the freight is touch freight, ask them if they're okay with touching freight and unloading, loading too. We have to make sure that we ask those questions. Whatever the job need sheet says, we want to talk to it in our interviews. That is how you will be providing a effective interview for your drivers. And your time won't be wasted, and neither will the driver, and neither will the training orientation. And that's also will be a CYA because your driver won't be getting hired and then saying, "Oh, this was not explained to me." Yes, it was. You did all what you were supposed to do. So before you sent that driver over. And speaking on that, I want to talk about this. If you send over qualified drivers, if you send over qualified drivers and you send over a lot of qualified drivers, your relationship with the company, it will remain in good standing. Sending over bad leads will potentially make your relationship not in good standing. And then, they'll start weeding you out and trying to find a new company that can find drivers for them and understand what they need. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention and sending over qualified leads when we are sending these driver qualified profiles over. And your job is so easy. I'll show you what you'll be doing. I promise you, yeah, a kid can do it. But right now we're looking for adults. So that's it. You won't be calling the companies. You won't be talking to carriers, that managers. Strictly everything is done by text, email. If you see some numbers and emails on these websites that we're going to be utilizing, do not reach out to them, okay? They're not HR. They're mostly managers or someone, and they're gonna be looking at you like, why you calling me? So they don't even know about third party recruiters, honestly. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But other than that, that's really it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. My number is 901-295-7872. That is the recruiting line for Rolling Recruits. And my name is Allie. And y'all have a nice day.